The biggest brucha that I have from Hashem is that he's probably the right shlich of my father and my mother. But my mother's yurtzah was yesterday. Umein. And the biggest thing that they taught us is to walk between the drops. So what I meant to say is we didn't get into trouble. It was very hard and I had to compensate a lot, but I didn't get in trouble a lot.
What type of marks were you getting on your tests?
Above 90. I'm smart.
How?
Kid. I'm smart.
No, but you need a focus to be able to study.
I was very overcompensated. I've learned at a very young age, probably at 6, 7, that I physically need a pen and a pencil for me to be able to cope the day. So I used to always write on my hands. Even later when I had kids, I learned how to deal with it, exactly. As a matter of fact, in the 44 years of being ADHD, I had twice where I tried medication and I tried it for maybe 2, 3, 4 days, but I couldn't last because first of all, I'm very skinny, so it made me very weak and very schwach. And you need that process of medication where it's like in you for a few months to be able to operate. And I never gave it a chance. I rather fell back to what I thought myself that I need to do, such as pen and paper, and that's what I do. Or email is my best friend. People use Monday.com. People use all these. Like you send me a task on WhatsApp, it's never gonna get done. You send me an email, I go unopened to open and chop, chop, chop. If it's done, it's opened and it's gone. If it's not done, it's unopened and it stands there like a sore eye. You feel me?
Okay. We don't really know each other. I met you in the Shul, in the building. I work upstairs. What were you doing there?
My daughter goes every Monday. My mother was a play therapist.
Okay.
My mother, Alea Shulam, she was very smart in the sense that she used to use Shlomo HaMelech's pusik all the time. She says, Dage belevish yisacheni. So meaning to say is, at 38 years ago, she used to send us for psychology help, which was, nobody did that in our community at all. And she was there because she used to say, if he's going to help you or he is going to help you or not, I don't know. But just for you burping it out, that's Dage belevish yisacheni. That's what Shlomo HaMelech is.
Get it out of your system.
Exactly. Get out of your system. So my mother was a play therapist in the schools over here. Later in life, she went back for her certificates. So my daughter goes to a play therapist up there on the 4th floor. So it ends
That's my office.
That's where your office is? So now I know why there's no milk for the coffee there anymore. Yeah. I'm kidding. So I only drink 1 coffee a day. So I go down for mincha.
Got it.
I try to be with the mincha. I try to be with the mincha. I try to be with the minyan. So minyan's a big thing. So yeah, for me.
You walk out of the elevators, you'll see my office. There's a sign on the door, Blackbird Recruiting.
All right. I'll haunt you.
Yeah. No, so what happened was I started this company, Blackbird, a few years ago. And over the years, I've had a lot of conversations with people calling me, Tully, I need a job. Okay, fine. Are you currently working? Yes. So why are you looking to leave? I need to make more money. My wife just had a baby. So go ask your boss for a raise. I know, but I feel like I hit a ceiling, or I just asked for a raise 6 months ago. And my boss didn't. It's a lot of those conversations. So I decided to start a podcast to have conversations with people, either who are successful employees or employers. And these conversations will hopefully help employees learn how to become a better employee, more valuable, successful, indispensable. So hopefully they can make more money. That's the goal of why we started the podcast. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the What It Takes podcast. Tilly Krause here from Blackbird Recruiting. Today, I'm very excited to introduce somebody I've wanted to have on the podcast for a long time. We don't know each other, but when I saw him during Mincha one time, I'm like, he's the guy. I've heard about you. I've seen you around. We've never officially met. Abe Breuer built a successful business, John to Go. Portable toilets for events, for construction sites. Their website says they service New York, New Jersey, and Florida.
I should change that.
Why? It's more?
We have companies in Utah and in the Carolinas.
Okay, we're going to talk about all of that. I'm excited. We're going to talk about how we built this business, what it takes to be a good employee, and entrepreneurship, ups and downs, ADHD. Should you start a company? Now you're in healthcare, no?
Yes.
We'll talk about okay, so welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Yes. People approach me all the time about different things. Not so much of the things that I want. I want to tell them how handsome I look, but they don't say that. I'm kidding.
Can I have some money?
Yeah. So sometimes you build a guard when somebody approaches you. And what I appreciate with the fact that you approached me, it took exactly 30 seconds. You said what you wanted. I answered, took my number, a week or two or whatever it is, we're here. So I appreciate that. And
correct. Why waste people's times?
The biggest thing that helped me build companies, people always ask me, is I hate procrastination.
Okay.
So instead of doing things in 3 steps, do it in 1 step. I once had a chief operating officer that used to work for PepsiCo.
Okay.
And he said the biggest thing that he've learned from big corporate companies versus small mom and pops like we build, like we try to do, is that BICO has meetings about meetings. Typically in mom and pops, you have meetings about solutions.
Yeah.
So-
Or it's an email. If
or
it
it's an
doesn't have to
email.
be
You
an
get it done. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I have not heard the podcast before. You did send me a link. I looked at it and I was pretty impressed.
Thank you.
One of the things I was very impressed is on the podcast, this part of the room looks pretty dark and it looks so
We
nice
should-
and lit.
In editing, show them like a pan of
A
the room,
pan,
see what's
a-
going
a-
on.
But no, very good. And we're living in a day and age that you could, one of the podcasts that was on, there was an argument if somebody has to go to college. And I know you went to college.
One semester, I failed miserably.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
So again, at the end of the day, maybe that was your college. Because
I don't think it's necessary, honestly.
it's not necessary. And we had this argument once in one of the colleges, and I kept on saying that you don't technically need it, but because you could learn anything and everything today. So therefore, for the ones that will be seeing this podcast, I appreciate it for them that you are basically putting it out there.
I'll tell you, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, he thinks that I think it's him, or Mark Cuban, thinks that one of the benefits of going to college is the relationships that you're building during college. These people, you're going to stay friends with them for a very long time. Number one. Number two, most colleges, the curriculum, the structure is a scam. There's no reason in the world why, if you want to become a doctor, you need to learn about certain, you need to take certain classes that have almost zero relationship to the medical space. I wanted to become a pediatrician.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You're probably good with kids.
I'm great with kids. In Shul, I run the Tehillim program, the davening program. We do prizes.
candies.
Yeah.
I love it.
The candy man. So I went one semester. I failed miserably. I was just doing a lot during that time in my life. Trying to become an EMT.
Oh, really?
I was dating. I was working full time plus college. It was just a lot. But since I mean, if you want to do today, there are micro credentialing schools, and there's also trade schools, which is a very big deal. I wish more Yidden went to trade schools, mechanic, plumbing, electrical, blue collar type of work.
I was going to open ones like that, something like that. It's very important, especially today's day and age, where you have a bunch of the boys, the Bachram, that they don't want to stay in yeshiva, but they do want to have somewhat of a connection to Hashem. So they want to daven with minyan, they want to learn, but they can't do it full day. And or if they do it full day, but at the end of the day, they just feel like blah. I didn't get to anything.
Right.
So if you have half a day, a part of the 2 hours, 3 or 4, and you teach them something that they may not get into that business, they may not become a mechanic, but there isn't anyone that would say, I hate my life for learning how to fix something.
Right.
It's always great to have it. So it's something that I think is very necessary. And I think one of the reasons why it failed in our community is because the ones that did try to do it, they tried to do it either in an aspect where it's a non-for-profit and it's like a big Rahmanas thing, or it's a big...
Right.
Somebody should make it as a business. And
Someone is doing it already for architects, interior designers, and accounting. ICA in Brooklyn, I think, does it
that's
for
great.
those 3 careers.
That's great. I mean, out of the three things too, the architect and the bookkeeping, that's great. Accounting is great. The designing, it's very hard to make money in designing.
Right.
I mean, some do, but it's very hard to make money in designing. But if they could add on more, it's definitely encourageable, because at the end of the day, kids today, we live in a world where, unfortunately, money is something and who you are is something, and somewhat who you are depends on money. And to have that courage that you have something in back of your head that you could actually do, it's accomplishing. It's a head start. Then licensing. I'm an EMT. I went to the class to become an A certified. So there's between the medics and the basic. I don't know if it's still around, but there used to be one. I'm a helicopter pilot, and I'm my Cessna licensing. I just wanted to have licenses.
We should have done this podcast in a plane.
So we could do the next one in a plane or a helicopter. But a helicopter, you need all your hands and your feet, so you can't really maneuver like that. The joystick, yeah. So no, licensing is amazing. Just to be able to know that you have something tucked under your belt, regardless if you're going to use it or not, it gives you a sense of accomplishment. And to give you a little bit about that is that I once heard, and I try to use it, the difference between somebody that's successful, somebody that's not successful. So a unsuccessful person, if he looks to buy a house and finally he finds the house that he wants, and finally he gets it, an agreement on the price, and he puts it on the contract, he's not celebrating. He's basically now worried. So what's going to be with the loan, or what's going to be with the down payment, what's going to be with the this and the that and the other and the whatever. A successful entrepreneur, especially entrepreneur, every step of the way they celebrate. And the fact is, celebrations bring more celebrations. We got an agreement on the price, let's celebrate.
Momentum.
We got on the momentum. We got on the contract, let's celebrate. We found how we're going to get the down payment, let's celebrate. Celebration brings celebration.
Right.
So it's very important.
Was building John to Go your first step into the world of business?
So depends what you call the category of business. So when I was 5-6 years old,
full-time
okay,
W2.
W2.
No, not
So
full-time job.
Full-time job. So I did sell a company when I was 16 years old, and I sold it for $25,000. I did build
16 years old,
16
selling a business
years
for
old.
$25K.
$25K. I sold a computer company. It's still around. I know the guy that bought it still sells computers, and he branched out more to software now, but it's called Hudson Computers USA. I couldn't get the Hudson Computers because somebody had already, like Hudson Computers.
The domain or whatever.
It wasn't domain then, but just to incorporate it. So I had to do Hudson Computers USA, and I was simply buying these boxes and motherboards and graphic cards and memory cards and put them together. And when a desktop used to cost $3,000, I used to sell for $2,500, whatever the case is. And I had orders, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And for sure, my friends around me, because they all had sandwiches and dinners and trips to go to because we had money. But so I did that. But after
Why did you sell the business?
I sold the business because at that I went to learn in Etzisrael. I went to learn for 1 year to Chabin in Etzisrael. And at that point, I had periods in my life, which I think everybody should be that way in a sense, where when I do something, in a way, I'm a pretty naive person. I become very serious. I can't do 17 things at once. I'm a very good multitasker, but I put my energy into one thing. So if I'm going to Etzisrael to learn, I'm leaving everything behind. I'm going to be this now. And I was the bacher that only ate the Haide Hechsher, and I went to every Havguna, and I was like real serious into it. After a year, my mashgiach over there didn't think it was that good of an idea I was there.
Yeah.
So I came back, but that's the reason why I sold it at the time.
How'd you find a buyer?
So the guy that I actually sold it to, he was a typesetter at the time, and now he's married, 20-something years old, and I needed credit cards to be able to buy these products. My father was supportive, but he never had like the means to do that. So I used to use his credit cards. At the time, the points came out, so he made some points on it, and used to pay him, and we enjoyed that relationship. We used to schmooze all the time and figure stuff out. So when I was going to sell it, he was like, you know what, I know exactly what you do and how you do it. I'm doing typesetting anyway. I'm in the computer world anyway, so he bought it.
I'm excited to talk to you today about United Refuah Health Share. If you are spending thousands of dollars every single month on health insurance, this is an alternative for the firm community. You should go check them out. It's not health insurance, it's a health share program. Me and my wife and our family, we switched over about 2 years ago. We've saved thousands of dollars. Our premium or the cost is $500 a month. They don't use the word premium because whatever, those terminology is meant more for health insurance. But for the first 10 listeners who are watching this video and going to sign up using code Blackbird, you're going to get your 3rd month free. So that's something I'm very excited to share with you guys. Make sure to go check them out. United Refuah Health Share. See you next time.
How'd you get into the portable toilet business?
So I only really had one job working for a company that wasn't my company.
W2.
And you too?
W2.
W2. So no,
Yeah.
I'm getting a W2 today, even too, from all the companies. But
but
I wasn't at a place where I was risking to get fired. Let's put it this way.
Okay.
So I was working for a guy, an amazing guy. I still hear stories about him. He's not alive anymore, but I still hear stories about him. A tzaddik of a guy. He had a janitorial company called AAA Supplies. At the time when I worked for him, this was in Newburgh, New York.
Okay.
And we were selling mostly, the idea was to nursing homes and hospitals. My end of it is I brought in hotels and school systems and the bids and these types of things. And the goal was to sell $100,000 a week in order to be able to make money, like for the commissions part of it. I was there for about 1.5 years. So that was one job. But while I was there, I was also buying real estate in Hartford, Connecticut. So how I was doing both, or how I was buying?
How are you buying real estate when you know?
So I was buying real estate because one of the things that I have in my head is that I usually have a very, I'm going to back up for a second. I'm older now, and I told my kids last week, we were learning a piece of Maranayim on Emunah and B'tachon, and I told them that I wish I would have known these things when I grew John to go.
Okay.
Life would have been a lot easier. Maybe this 3 white hair wouldn't have been here. But at that point, or in anything, you want to have clarity how you're going to do it. What's point A, what's point B? So I mean to say is, let's say if you're buying a piece of real estate, one of the things that you want to have clarity on, so who's going to be your attorney, or who's the broker, or what's going to be the entity name you're going to buy it on. Simple clarities that you could have. You don't have to say koichev yotzim yudi, that it's me only. You just need to know clarity. How am I going from step 1 to step 20? Otherwise, it's just not happening, or you're dragging, or you're procrastinating. You don't want to do that. So I used to love real estate. Something in my head, I still love real estate. Something in my head tells me that like to be king of the castle, like is owning property. I always had that love to own properties. I like nice cars, but cars was never my thing. It's like it depreciates. I don't know. It was never the thing. Real estate was always my love. So I used to, and I don't come from a background that has it. My brother actually had a little bit of real estate. My brother, which was my partner in John to Go, he had a little bit of real estate. And as I was driving to get here, when I grew up here, so you grew up in Brooklyn, but I grew up here, this place was shootings. He owned on Bethune. He owned over here. He owned some houses where you couldn't go collect your rent yourself. You went with like a group of people. That's how bad it was. But still, I loved real estate. And what I was going to say is that my parents never owned real estate. I mean, they had their house.
How'd you get into the business? Someone gave
I
you
just loved
200
it.
grand?
No. So what happened is that I ended up buying my first building, which was a 24-unit mixed-use property. It was only $400,000.
How did you have any experience in real estate?
I did not, but I was convinced that I do. I know now that I was.
How'd you get the money for a deposit?
So the money was like this. I read a book then from the Reichmans in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
They built the Battery Park. It was a big Kiddush Hashem that they didn't build Friday afternoon until they got it done faster than the projected date. It was crazy Kiddush Hashem in the New York Times. It was crazy. So I read a book about them, and they said over there, in most deals, obviously if the price makes sense, most people would get nitty-gritty on the dollars, 5,000 up, 5,000 down. And people don't realize $5,000 or $10,000, even $100,000 on a big deal over the course of 25 or 30 years amortization of that loan, it makes no difference. I mean, it makes a difference, but peanuts.
Right.
Negotiate the terms. So I was LoopNet as a website is what came out at the time. This was 2000. Maybe it came out in 97, 98. I don't remember, but it was very, very new. And the concept that the world is becoming so small in front of your eyes, you could actually see deals in California that what you would have never known unless you have a broker that you could talk on the phone to, or you get the New York Times off LA, whatever it is, and you see the real estate classified. So the world became so small. And for me, it was such an excitement to see these buildings. And over here, the same size building is like in Manhattan, the 24-unit building is millions. And over here, it's 400,000. And if it's an added value building because you have to put in money, it gave me that rush. And I saw myself becoming wealthy. Like I could buy it, and I could rehab it, and I could sell it. It gave me that dream like that. Okay. It's like they say, there isn't a rich person that's rich because of his bank account, and there isn't a poor person that's poor because of his bank account. Rich and poor is in here. So I was rich, but I just didn't have a penny, So that's the excitement that it gave me. So what happened is that I found that building, and it was actually listed in the New York Times classifieds on the real estate. Back in the day, LoopNet was there, but back in the day, anything in the tri-state area that somebody wanted to sell, they listed on the classifieds in the New York Times. And that was on Sundays. And Sunday, the New York Times was like a Gemara. It was like a Bible. So I used to buy it, and I used to go through them. So the deals that were good or bad, but it was millions of dollars, was irrelevant to me. I mean, it could be a gold mine, but I still couldn't. I still couldn't see how I could syndicate it. But this was a $400,000. $400,000. It was 24 units, and it was easy to put together. So I went to them, and when I went to the showing, I remember it was a Tuesday, and there was maybe 20 investors came to look at the building. And I was like, oh, man. So I asked the broker to take me to the seller, and he brought me downtown Hartford, and I sat down with the guy. He was from Portugal. Very nice guy, Carlos. I can't remember his last name. His name was Carlos. Very nice guy. They owned a bunch of buildings. This building they bought for like nothing off the tax lot, and they rehabbed it, but it was more or less empty. And I said to him, I said, look, you want $400,000? I'll give you $400,000. But we got to make a deal. So I'll give you $25,000 to get into contract. I'll give you another $25,000 when we close. So now we don't need a mortgage. So I could close fast. I close in a month. And then I'll give you $50,000 6 months in. I'll give you another $50,000 6 months in. So in a year in, you're only going to be 50% LTV, loan to value, because it's a $400,000 loan. At that point, I gave you already 200 or 150. It was another 6 months for 50. So basically, you'll be at 50%, and we'll do it that way. And he liked me, and he said, okay, deal. So So it's a deal. Use the local.
This was doing it while working full time.
I was working full time then. So I was buying this building, and then he sold me another building, a 30-unit building, which I ended up buying for a very low down payment because I realized at the time that he had a very high mortgage on it based on what he needed it for it. And I basically assumed the loan. I didn't technically assume the loan. He gave me over the rights. He basically gave me the LLC. And he basically trusted me that I'll make the payments like that. So when I had about 100 units, I had to quit. I couldn't do the job anymore. But 100 units doesn't make you money. That means just that you're rich on paper. That doesn't pay your bills.
You have a lot of debt.
I always had a lot of debt.
Yeah. No, 100 units is a lot of debt.
Yeah. 100 is a lot of debt. Yeah. So you have that. But then, so that was the first major thing that happened that I left over there. John to Go happened about 4 years later. So now we're talking about 2021, that area. 2001, sorry. 2001. See, I'm trying to be younger than I am. 2001. In 2024. 2004, sorry. That's when I opened up John to Go. And opened up John to Go with a partner. And we opened it up in September of 2004. And we went.
Who was this partner?
So I'm not going to say a name, but he's a very nice guy. A year older than me. He learned the yeshiva together with me.
Why'd you pick him?
No. So what happened is that at that time, there was a little, here in Spring Valley, there was like you have over here, a bunch of little offices. So there was also a place like that had a bunch of little offices. Each office rented for like $400 or $500, I can't remember. And all of us were working, somebody in construction, somebody in real estate, somebody else. And we had our own offices. We were hustlers. We were hustling at the time. And we didn't have, anybody working for us and so on. We used to come in, let's say, on Motzei Shabbos and do all the paperwork for the week. And then the week, at least for me, I was in Connecticut all week to make a difference. And so we used to get together a lot in schmooze. So like Motzei Shabbos when we used to work, we used to order in pizza and schmooze. And they constantly used to bug me. Like I used to have all these grand, amazing business ideas, which most of them you can't bring to fruition. It's never going to happen, but just amazing ideas. What if? So they kept on bugging me like, let's do something in partnership. So when I had this idea, I asked one of the guys and he said, yeah, he would love to be a partner. And if I remember correctly, I think we had to put in $160,000 was the initial opening. So it was like buying the first truckload of toilets, which was 112 toilets. It comes unassembled on a tractor trailer, and a truck, and your licensing and your insurance. The problem is that we started right before the winter. And in the winter, if you don't know what you're doing, at least if you're in the East Coast, it becomes ice cream and ices. And your truck becomes an ice cream and an ices, and everything busts, and you can't go service no porta johns. So we went through that winter, and it was brutal. And the worst part was that the truck we bought, because we were cheap, we bought a stick shift truck. And between me and him, I'm the only one that knows how to drive stick shift. So he used to follow me sometimes when the drivers didn't come in, and we had to cover in his car in heat, and I was driving the truck. So at some point we realized it's just not gonna. So he turned to me and he said after the winter, he said, "Listen, Abe, this ain't for me. Like if we need to close it, I understand. Let's liquidate. But if you want to just buy me out, just give me back my $80,000 and I'm out." Okay, so I didn't have any money at the time, and I wasn't necessarily heartbroken because I work well with partners, but I also realized real soon that this is just not an equal partnership. I'm a hustler. I love doing this. So I ended up pitching this. I was doing the real estate, and I was actually selling a building that we rehabbed together with my brother. My brother was the investor, which is my John to Go partner, but it was the investor, and I had to give him back something like $80,000 or something. So I said, instead of giving it back, would you want to become a partner in this? And he said, well, give me the numbers. He's a very detailed person, and I had to give him an Excel sheet or whatever the case is, and he talked through with his accountant or whatever he did. He's older than me, 11 years older than me, and he came back and said, all right, I want to become a partner. In the John to Go. So he is my partner still. Well, now we have a bunch of partners with private equity, but up until the day, we were partners.
What's it like working with family?
So I always tell this to people, especially with people that know my brother. When you work with somebody that's a real good guy, like a Yira Shemayim, you have zero issues regardless who he is. And it's not me, it's him. So he has patience. I'll explain something. You know how they say that most of your issues, most of your troubles, most of your daigas, most of your, how do you say daigas properly in English?
Headaches.
Most of your headaches, we take on ourselves. We take on ourselves. And I've seen it in chinuch, and I've seen it with my kids. So I've married kids. I have grandkids.
Wow.
And I remember some of the kids when they were growing up, and in my book, it felt like they're not successful in school, or they're going the wrong way and so on. And mamish, I couldn't sleep at night because what's happening next and what's going to go next, until I stopped for a second. I said, whoa. Says who? It's okay. And if that's the case, maybe that's what needs that. Maybe that's the kid's journey or whatever the
That's what
case
Hashem
is.
wants.
That's what Hashem wants. And everything went away. I went back to sleep and everything goes fine. So what I'm saying is that in partnerships, many things, why we argue is because we have shortcomings in our own mind of thinking that this is the thing and that's the thing and that's what I need to catch him on and that's where the problem is. And what I've learned over the years, and I know my brother has it, trust me, he had me as a partner. And if you basically say, you know what, I'm looking at the big picture, and I've learned this when we sold one of the companies to private equity, and I wasn't the manager anymore, and I wasn't the person dealing with everything, and my kids were asking me, but Tati this, but Tati that, and I said, listen, what I've learned is that I know very well how to run the company, but that doesn't mean that I know the best way how to run it. Maybe they know a better way how to do it. That's fine. We are basically focusing on the end game and other reports. If it gets done, it's like I always tell my employees, I said, look, this and this has to happen. Now, if you want to go this way, go this way. If you want to go this way, just get it done. And the same token is you have to tell your employees that I don't pay you to work hard. You want to work hard, knock yourself out. I have no issue with that. I pay you for stuff to get done. So if you figure out a way to do it with your feet up on the table, they ain't concerning me. So that's a little bit the concept of working with partners, that if you get to the point where you become nitty gritty in what's happening and it becomes like a tick for tat. It's not a distraction. It gets into your head and then becomes a resentment and then it becomes a problem. With that said, if you realize that you can't work with the partner, don't let it drag out. Sir Marava say to cut it right there.
Right.
Don't let it drag out. So
how did you people don't realize. A lot of people go into partnerships and then it goes bad. And I heavily recommend call a lawyer. Like discuss all the challenges, potential challenges early on. So if something comes up, you know what to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't look messy.
But I'll tell you even more than that. So I have a call today with two partners. I'm flying to Miami soon. So I have a call today at 5:15 on my way to the airport. So they wanted to take me to the airport, but thank you very much. I like going myself. But I like the quiet of my car, of my space. I want that. But and what I always like to do with partners, and I'm saying about these two partners, two great people, they're actually classmates and they did great in the world that they're in and so on. And I always like to take it the other way around. Says, okay, what's the worst case scenario and what's the best case scenario? So the case is that you're very few going to find a partner where they have $100 million venture and there's an argument or there's a fight or there's something that's unresolved. You're going to find it where there's an argument or a question and a few $100,000, maybe a few $1 million, nothing major. So now let's put it in perspective. Let's say it's $1 million net and the question is 500,000 at best case scenario. Okay, so first recognize the number is not, it's not that I am right or you're right. The results of it may not be so significant that it may not be worth your agmas nefesh and your tsar and everything. So first recognize what this is. If it would have been $50 million, yeah, people would kill for $50 million. But we're dealing with a couple $100,000. Okay, let's chillax for a minute and let's see how we could get as close as we can. The second thing about you technically do when you come with partners is you start saying, okay, you admit to this, and you get them as close, and then you see how far that gap that you need to gap is. Usually that gap is not that far.
Right.
It just becomes so much noise.
I hope you're enjoying today's podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Blackbird Recruiting. ChatGPT, what do you think about Blackbird Recruiting?
Blackbird Recruiting, the team that finds you the right people so you can stop wasting time on resumes that look like they were written by someone's dog. If you're a business owner struggling to find top talent, let Blackbird do the heavy lifting. They'll help you find candidates who actually get it. Visit blackbirdrecruiting.com and let them take your hiring game to new heights.
You heard it here first. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
It's 2004. John to go is starting.
Oh, I forgot where I am.
Yeah. It's okay. I'll bring you back.
So 2004.
You bring your brother into the business.
So I bring my brother into the business. So we were a small company. I mean, if I got to tell you,
What's small?
Small. So we're going to talk numbers and small, and then we could get to. And then when we can't talk numbers anymore, we're going to talk about how many porta johns and trucks. Okay. So small numbers. So we start in 2004. So now we're in 2005. 2005, at best, if we did 400,000 in gross revenue, that's probably the most. I still have the tax return, so I could.
But you still need to pay off your investment.
So no. So what? So that Yeah. So the biggest problem. So let me back up for a second. People ask me always about opening a company, and it's not my word, and it's I just like to preach it or talk about it. Is that you have to understand the difference between a company and a gig. And the harshest way to understand between a company and a gig is, so if you get hit by a bus, is the company still there or not? It's not a company,
Right.
like that. So now the answer on that is that when you grow a company, especially in the service-based business, which we were in, Porta John's is a service-based business. It's a service I provide. So there's a couple of things we could talk about service-based businesses, but service-based businesses are the easiest to survive if you do the right thing. So there's a couple of things that could break you. And these are one of the things that we were looking to avoid when I got into the business. The one thing is that you see over here, there's a dime a dozen plumbers, electricians, IT people, low voltage people, blah, blah, blah. Because these are service business. But the thing though is that it's very hard for you to it's very easy to create your competition. Because every good manager you have potentially could get into it because you don't really need much to open up a company like that. If you know how to fix ACs, and you are readily available and you're easy to work with and you're a people's person, you're going to have customers. And if you're doing the right thing, the customers are going to pay you. Right. It's simple as a pimple. It's 1 + 1. That's it. So that's a service-based business, but that's very hard to regulate or to, as much as you can, hold it like in the family per se.
Right.
In a business like Porta John's or many other things like tents or that you need inventory, it's a lot harder to say that somebody is physically going to put together millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars
investment
to put the investment in to go into what? Toilet business?
Right.
Hello? Like that.
So significant overhead.
So, but service-based businesses give you the largest net EBITDA. So the largest net, that's what it gives you. So when you have manufacturing and they do a net of 8%, in service-based business, you could get 38% easy. Right. So it gives you a lot what to work with. Now, mind you, 38% of $400,000 is a lot of money, but it's something. That's the other thing. The other thing with service-based businesses is, in most of these companies, you start turning a profit. Turning a profit doesn't mean that you could buy a mafter. Turning a profit doesn't mean that you could buy a new car. Turning a profit means that if I put in $100 and I have 10 cents, I turn the profit, right? Service business is one of the easiest companies to actually turn a profit fast because, again, I always like to joke. All I have to do is that I have a Porta John, you need a Porta John. I take it from my yard and I drop it on your driveway. You pay me $100. It's that simple, right? So in there's a gazillion such companies. Now, with that said, is that it's very easy to turn a profit. But, and here comes the but. The but is that if you basically grow the business faster than the profits you're bringing in, you're creating debt. And that's what's our issue always.
I'm just making some notes for questions.
Sure.
Also,
ADHD, the ADHD. Yeah. So that's that portion.
How do you start scaling?
Oh, very good. Very good. So scaling. So scaling is a lesson that everybody needs to have in general. You need to have a lesson in scaling, basically what does scaling mean? And then you come down a little bit more in detail. How do I scale? And then you come down even more in detail. How do I scale in my world, what I do? Okay. So I say always that we ran John to Go ourselves, my brother and I, from 2005. So we started 2004. He came in 2005 up until 2023.
Wow, 19 years.
19 years. We're still partners in the company. We're just not operating.
Active.
Not active. I mean, we're board members, but yeah. Now, what happens is in a company like that and in any other company is, and I always say this, that the company that became, so you're talking about 10 to 15,000 Porta Johns. You're talking about hundreds of trucks. You're talking about hundreds of employees. You're talking about a big company.
Revenue
range.
50 million?
Range.
Okay.
So what happens is that for us, it happened the last 5 years before 2023 happened, before we took on the partners. Meaning to say is that for the first 13, 14, 15 years of the company, we were grinding. And you know why? Because we didn't know what scaling means. I knew what scaling means. I'm not a dummy.
You knew you needed it.
I knew I needed it. I knew I wanted it. But the scale in my head was that I wish PPC is going to pop me out a lead from a company that has 400 Porta Johns in Manhattan, and he's pissed off at with his existing vendor, and he gives us the job. Okay, 400 Porta Johns, that's $40,000 a month. $40,000 a month, that's $480,000 a year. That ain't scaling. When you talk about scaling, you're talking about going from $5 million in revenue to $10 million in revenue in 12 to 18 months. That's scaling. Right. You're talking about scaling is from being a company that does, let's say in 2015, $5 million in revenue, and in 2019, they do $35 million in revenue. That's scaling. So I knew scaling, but you really need to know scaling. And you need a table like this with a piece of paper, a big piece of paper, and basically saying, being out of your mind, if I do now $1 million, I have X amount of customers, X amount of trucks, X amount of toilets or tents or whatever you do. It's irrelevant. Or people that you're recruiting. How many people do I have to bring into how many jobs? Because my average pay is at $12,000 because my average job that I deliver is at $90,000. My average, whatever, I get 15%, whatever you get. And you basically put it out there and you do it the total opposite. You go, okay, so if I want to become a 50 million revenue company, okay, now math. On the same dollar that I get per customer, how many customers do I need? How many toilets do I need? How many trucks do I need? And then you start working backwards.
And that's your goal.
And that's your goal. And that's what, that day it changed everything. And why that happened is actually a story.
Let's hear. What happened?
So what happened was that we always ran our companies. There was once I can't remember the full story, but I'm just going to give you the gist of it. So there was once a story that there was a guy that he had family with kids, and they were Lamdei Torah. They sat in koil or whatever there was, and he was obviously was supporting them. Was a wealthy person, was supporting them, and his issue was, like many of us today, and I suffer from the same issue, is that the street takes you, or they perceives you at a lot bigger oisha than you are. And you just, from the phone calls to the requests to you get bombarded. It's like it's like celebrity life in a sense, because people want, and with all rights in the world. And you should be thankful that you could be on that side of the coin and so on. But I always ask people when they give me a bracha that they should give me a bracha that my heart and my pocket should work together. Like my heart is there, but like that. But so he had the same issue that he was living in a state, and he was perceived as the biggest Oisha that he is, and big Rosh Hashivas used to fly in to meet him, and he was just running away from people because they didn't have the money to give him. And at some point he asked, I think the question went to Satmaru, but they asked the question and said, like, I'm already giving tzedakah. My kids are sitting and learning, and I'm supporting them, and there's a koila, this and that, and so on and so forth. I can't remember the end of the story, but I'm saying it in terms of business. Operate your business very open-minded, as if you are who you're going to be whom you want to be. Like, I always wanted to be that $100 million company. So we were operating at $400,000 with that same notion. The way our trucks were painted, the way our literature was printed, the way we spoke to customers, the confidence we gave to customers and to our employees, the way we wrote everything. You can't lie, but you could put it there on a way where if somebody looks at you versus looks at somebody else, and we used to look at these websites from these humongous, huge companies, they looked as if they are us, and we looked like we are them. That's how you need to do it. So at some point in 2017, it was, I think, a guy which happens to be is a friend of mine. He may even see this podcast at some point. It's very, very, very funny. His wife is actually, so he's not Jewish. His wife is. And his wife is actually an anical from Moshe Montefiori's brother. Very interesting. And he was once in my house for Hanukkah with his wife and kids, 2 kids, now he has 3 kids. And I have collectible items like, first edition Svarim, and I don't buy coins or pots and pans. Manuscripts and stuff. And I took him down. I showed him a whole collection of Moshe Montefiore letters that went from England to the Nietz Yisrael with the Shmuel Heller and Tzfaz, the crazy stuff. And he went crazy. He took pictures, sent to his father-in-law. It's not that many generations. He was explaining to me, it was like maybe 4 or 5 generations it's very interesting.
He was in the 1800s?
Yes. Very interesting. I'll tell you an interesting other thing is, up until a couple of years ago, there was a koilel by his Beis HaChaim, where he was buried, still from a fund that he left. He died without kids.
Right.
So could you imagine somebody had the schia for 150 years,
learning for his neshama.
Learning for his neshama, for him and his wife.
That's crazy.
And he didn't grow up religious. Right. He became Bal Shiva. Crazy. There's an amazing story about him. I don't know how much your audience wants to hear, but there's an amazing story about him, which I tell my kids all the time. My father told it to me, and it's a story that we have to learn. We have to preach it every single day. So he had a psegaba that was a religious person, but get the chevrama, like he knew where the covet is, and he made his own money like that and so on. And at some point, he gave so much money to Etzisrael that he wanted to go on the Harabayis, by the Koisel, on the Harabayis. And his Gaba, and if I'm not saying it correctly, if anybody wants to, on the comments on YouTube, they could. Yeah. But so basically, he was told that if you're in a box and people carry you, then even although we're Toma today, then you could go on the Harabayis. So he did that, and the Rabbanim in Yerushalayim condemned him. They put him a cherem. And the first thing is that the first hispa'ilus of the story is that the Rabbanim who lived off of him, he was the main sponsor of the Nietz Yisrael at the time where people were dying for hunger in maybe today's day and age, yes or no, I don't know. They'll be like, what, we can't do it, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. And if we have to condemn and put them a chayrim, they put them a chayrim. They did that. And the second thing is, what do you think he did?
He apologized?
He apologized, took off his shoes, the whole process, took off his shoes, so they had to spit into it in the front of him, whatever the case is.
Really?
He did that. That's two amazing parts of the story of what we need to learn every day. That It's unbelievable. Anyway, so what happened is that at some point I get a phone call from this guy. His wife is an Anikel from the Montefiores. So I get a phone call from him, and he says he's a writer for the New Yorker magazine, which at the time, that I don't know what they do now, they print 1.2 million copies a week. Forget about online. They print. And it said that we're doing an article on one of the portable toilet companies, and we want to write about the five largest portable toilet companies in New York City.
Okay.
And he says, I know I'm writing about that one, so I need that one. I know you're one of them. I like, not even near. I wasn't doing 10% even of that. Okay. But he said it to me because we perceived ourselves that way. We were operating that way. Right. We kept our prestige that way. And then the other companies and so on. So he basically did an article, and it was a very fun article. You can look it up. If you search my name on Google, you can see it. He did another article about us in COVID. That was later. And after that article came out, it was very geschmack to see. He wrote about like Abe is a Harry, you know English well. Yeah. Harry meaning wired, a wired Hasidic portable toilet. So for the worlds of worlds, it's like so odd. Like so we started getting phone calls from TV shows, reality shows, and private equity. Everybody started calling us. So private equity had an issue because if they really see our numbers, they're like, okay, knock yourself out.
But when was this?
2017.
Wow.
And so we had 2017 into 2018. And I had one phone call from a very nice gentleman. They ran a private equity in Toronto. And he called up and he said, we want to duplicate so-and-so private equity that built this huge mega $3 billion portable toilet company by combining all these little companies. And he gave us a formula of what. So I'm going to back up for a second. People don't realize that the reason why you want to have a big company is not because, okay, I'm a big company, I'm doing a lot more sales, I have more net. Because in big companies, the general answer of the bigger you are, the bigger problems you have, that happens. You become so big. When payroll becomes $500,000 a week, $2 million a month, you have no room for error. I mean, you have too many people, relying on you. But the reason why you want to be a big company is because when you trade on the M&A world, in the merger and acquisition world, the bigger you are, the higher multiple for your company you get. So we didn't understand that at the time.
What's the multiple
so by us,
companies are getting?
So in general, the size we were then, we were going to be 3 to 5x. So let's say 3x, 4x, something of your net, not of your gross, of your net. When you become a size bigger, let's say at 10 million net, you're basically trading between 10 and 12. Which means if you're doing it right, you could buy all these smaller companies, tuck them under your company, and then you become all that money. So that's what they teach us.
But then you do an exit.
They do an exit. The problem is that you could only do that under tucking if you are actually considered in the worlds of worlds. It's considered a platform company. If your company is not strong enough and you're tucking it under, you're going under without the company.
Customer service, there's a lot.
Policies, processes, procedures, software, everything. And even more than that, I'll give you another tip for anybody that's in the M&As. What happens is that if you buy, let's say you are 10 million net EBITDA and you go and you buy 8 million EBITDA, that's very, very risky because if that 8 million EBITDA, you made a mistake in your due diligence and that tumbles, it'll take you with you. You would buy 2, 3, 4, max 5 million EBITDAs you would buy. Max half of what you are. Let's put it this way.
Right.
But they gave us that education and that deal never went through. But at that point, we were like, aha. So that's where we went back on paper, said $50 million, what do we need? And after we had it, my brother and I, we had it on paper. It's very simple. It wasn't a big paper, an Excel sheet. Right. We sat down with the top people that we had in the company then. The company then was 30 people, maybe. Right. And we sat down with the guys.
What were we doing in revenue then? 5 million?
Maybe,
okay.
And maybe 5 million, yeah. So then we sat down and we told everybody, said, look, this is the next 5-year plan. And we're going to get this done.
Did you break it down by monthly, quarterly, annually, or just 5 years?
No. So we said that so very good question. So in most companies, it's very hard to break it down. So you can't say 5 years because then you're snoozing at the wheel. you have to do something which is deliverables, like true deliverables on a daily or some companies even on an hourly basis. The problem is you can't do it monthly or yearly, because in any business, especially in my business, especially being in the East Coast, is that the winter is slower than the summer. But what you do is you do monthly, month over month from last year. So 2 measurables that you do, month over month from last month. So January more than December, and January compared to January 2025.
Right.
So you do it that way. But the goal is that, if we had a clear calculation that if we grow basically, let's say at 20% month over month, right, then we could get there in 3 years. If we grow by 10%, which is 120% of the company on a
6
year,
years.
then we could, exactly. So it's not really 6 years, because what happens is that once you get to the bigger numbers,
It
your
goes fast.
10% goes faster.
Compounding.
But the problem is once you get to that number, you start to plateau. Because how many times can you go from 5 million to 10 million, 10 million to 20 to 20 to 40,
Right.
40 to 80? It doesn't go. 5 to 10, you could do.
Right.
10 to 20, stretching yourself,
Right.
right? So what do you do then? So in a company like me is one way. In a company like Amazon is a different way. Is either you bring in more products, or you greenfield new locations, or you buy out another person. There's all these different options you could do,
Right.
depending on the world you're in. So what happened was, we ended up getting to the goal in 3 years, and we ended up making a deal with everyone that at the time we get to that number and we end up doing a merger or something to that nature, we will pull together about 3% of the sale. So if it's a $50 million sale, we'll put together $1.5 million, and everybody that sits at this table, which is the executive level, is 4 people, like nobody,
Right.
we'll split it up between you guys. And we did. One person walked away with a check of $430,000.
They didn't stay involved in the business.
Some are, some aren't.
I want to talk about employees.
Sure.
Um,
That's your love. You're going to talk about
no,
employees.
like people listening to this, there's a lot of people coming from our communities that don't have a proper background, don't know what it means to become a really good employee, to do well. I've met employees making close to $500,000 a year, started from being a secretary. So
Yeah.
going back, what were things that you were looking for when you were hiring? When you did have employees that like you wanted to keep them for forever, what was it that spoke to you? What are things that you saw employees do that like, oh wow, more people need to do this?
Right. So
You didn't grow your business without employees.
No,
You know?
no. It was a lot of work and a lot of energy and a lot of siyata, all of it siyata d'shmaya, but definitely a big portion of it is employees and the customers. But you have to understand something, that you could only make a deal with pooling money together to do a payout like that with people you could actually work with. If you can't get to the table with them, it's just not going to happen. They're going to drag you down, right? Okay. So as a hagdoma,
Preface,
as a
intro.
I'm a very bad hirer, and I'm going to tell you why.
Trust everybody?
I'm a very positive person. So as the person talks, I'm already creating what potential this person could have, and I'm creating it in my own head, and I've never communicated to
I know
them.
exactly what you mean. Okay.
And I'm a very bad firer
Right.
because again, it goes back to the positivity, but at the end of the day, I can't take negativity. It just doesn't work with me,
Right.
and like that. But I've learned to do both.
Okay.
Okay. So when you hire, you have to have a grain of salt. You have to look at the person with, okay, what are the bad things that are going to happen? What is not right? What am I mistaking myself? Okay. We're going to go back to this for a second. When you fire, and my brother taught me this, the fewest words you could use. It's not working out. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Why? It's just not working out. Because once you start explaining, it becomes an argument. But this, but that, you should have told me, I could have told you this, that, the other. Unfortunately, I sit in this position and you sit in that position. I get to fire you, such as you could get to fire me. You call me up tomorrow, you don't want to come in. That's what it is. So that's that. Now, when it comes to hiring, there's a few levels of hiring that sometimes you hire somebody, like let's say the driver's in the truck. Yes, I don't want to hire people every day, but it's not the end of the world. Now I'm busy hiring an administrator in one of my buildings, right? And it's a huge decision. And I'm actually having a problem making a decision. Why? Because this building is in a rural area, and like it's not in Miami where you could just get information. The community, in the healthcare community, is very small, so you could find out. This is in a place where you can't find like that. So I need to make a decision. For the employees and for the residents, you have to make sure that you're doing the right thing. You can't keep on rolling in administrators every 3 weeks. It doesn't work that way. So depends on the level of what you're hiring. I don't.
Alf.
I say, Alf, I don't do sniff, not because I don't want to. It just never got to me. So maybe we'll do sniff if somebody could send me sniff. But
Right.
I'm in the business that loses money. Alf. Alf loses money. There's no question. It's a very good word. A friend of mine told me, I'm not going to say his name. Good. He used to run 10 sniffs in the tri-state area. So that means
For those listening, SNFs are
nursing homes.
skilled nursing homes, and ALFs are ALF, assisted living.
Facility.
Less
No,
clinical.
less clinical and no skill.
Right. You
No-
don't
no
need
skill.
like heavy amount of nurses and
So if you do nurses, there's a third-party company like a home healthcare that will come in
Right.
or a doctor, but that does nothing to do with us.
that has nothing to do with the ALF.
Alfs are dormitories.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
you sleep there, you eat by us, we wash your linen. Technically, we give you medication.
Right.
We don't make any money on it or anything to do with that.
Right.
Like that. So what happens is that, well, the concept of the ALF business is that if you have a building of 24,000 square feet, you could have maybe at best 24 apartment units. Okay, I'm not talking about the city where you have 80 square feet. I'm
Right.
talking about normal. If you have a 24,000 square foot ALF building, you could have 100 residents in it.
Right.
Because it goes by bed or by room,
Right.
like that. Okay. So you asked me something. Oh, so this guy told me about the ALF business, and everybody who listens that's in this business will appreciate it. So he used to run 10 SNF buildings in the tri-state. And in the tri-state, it's like, this is where you want to be, like if you
Right.
could only afford it. And he told me the difference. Now he runs a bunch of ALFs. So he told me the difference between SNFs and ALFs are that in the SNF business, you chase the dollars. In the ALF business, you chase pennies.
It's true, but it's less headache, less stress.
True. The biggest mistake people make when they come into the ALF business, people call me every single day for advice, for partnership, for this, for that. I don't try to do partnership. What I'm saying is they ask me for that. And once a day, I hear, I'm not going to lie, a few times a week, I hear this from people. I work for a company that does nursing homes, or I've worked for a company that does nursing homes. I know the business inside out. It's too hard of a business, or it's too hard to put your fingers on it to
Right.
buy one. So I want to buy an assisted living facility. And I always need to tell them what makes a nursing home in the dollars or anything and so on is nothing to do with the ALF business. It's like, yes, it's bad and it's elderly,
Right.
but it has nothing to do one with another. It's like totally off. So people need to know that. Anyway, so it depends what you're hiring for. Okay.
Well, what makes an employee a good employee?
What makes an employee a very good employee is that you would see people that there is a mukum where you can make them excited. The question is very simple. What makes you as the owner come in every day rather than shutting your company? Why do you need a headache? Why do you need the digest? Why do you need the choivis? Why do you need the everything and so on? Because you see a potential that is going to be like your ticket. That's going to be your lottery, right?
Right.
If you could share that lottery, that potential, that excitement with your employee, and they actually start glaring up in their eyes,
Right.
that's an employee. Motivation. If the answer is that they basically, but this, but that, but negativity, but I can't give you this, but I don't want to answer the phone on Shabbos, knock yourself out. You're not for me. And I'm willing to pay for that handsomely. Maybe not want to hire you. I can only
Right.
afford $18 an hour or whatever they're paying right now,
Right.
or $30 an hour. I'm sorry, but $30 an hour. But at the end of the day, if we get to that number, we're going to pool money together that you should be able to have that same payday I have. The problem happens, and your audience are going to ask this. I'm talking from a level that we're talking about companies that could actually have the opportunity to get to M&A. They could become something. Sometimes you have a company that's, they sell sandwiches. And I'm not saying selling sandwiches is bad. But I'm saying is there is no potential like that. Then there's another way how to do this. How do you do this? You say very simple. Say, look, what I want you to do is X, Y, Z. And then you say, because... Tell him the because that's how you know what he's going to help you with.
Right.
I don't want to be busy with XYZ. So now he knows the because. And then you tell him every single Friday on your drive home from work, you're going to ask yourself this question. What have I done this week to alleviate my bosses or to help my boss grow? Ask yourself this question. And if the answer is nothing, then you know what you need to do next week. And if the answer is great, tap yourself in the back. Now, how do you bring that light, that motivation, that excitement into a general employee in a company where it's smallish? Nobody needs to be or wants to be, whatever.
Right.
The answer is that you tell them, look, we're going to take month over month what we did in 2025. You weren't here 2025. You're only here in 2026. And we're going to say that, let's say we did $25,000 in January 2025. Any penny above $25,000, you're going to get 1 point of that. So if we go and we end up doing $30,000, out of that $5,000, you get 1%.
Right.
You know what
That's
else?
motivation.
There's motivation. And if you can't see it in his eyes, they say, meh, not for you.
Right.
Now, the other thing that I love to tell people when you hire people, you can't do it on every level of hiring, but especially of mid hires and especially anything above that, and obviously on executive level. I always tell people when I hire them, I don't want to ever have a conversation with you about a raise. Ever. So are you going to put it?
You're still doing it.
Nope.
Nope. Running a business for 20 years.
I hired a guy last week
Okay.
to run my operations in Florida.
Okay.
Okay? If he gets to listen to it, he could comment true or false. Okay? I hired a guy last week. He gets a base salary. Decent base salary. I'm not going to deny it. He gets a decent base salary. He gets car expenses, medical, and so on. Every year, that's the agreement, we sit down and there is $50,000 and then an additional $20,000 of bonuses based off accomplishment certain things. So the $50,000 are things that are required by a job to accomplish. Okay?
Is that a bonus or a raise?
That's a bonus.
Besides for raises?
There's
the
no
bonus-
raises. I don't give raises. There is no raise.
Just a hefty bonus.
A hefty freaking bonus.
But can you have that for every position in the company?
No.
How are you going to do that for a bookkeeper?
Sure, you can have it in a bookkeeper. I have a bookkeeper right now. He actually didn't want to do it that way.
Okay.
But I have a bookkeeper right now that we hired on the healthcare side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not cheap. So he runs, call him CFO of the company. So for a CFO, maybe it's not expensive, right? But basically how you do it, it's very simple. You basically are supposed to give me reports of what's going on because I don't want to get involved in financial stuff at all, right? I mean, I have to deal with the banks. I have to make sure stuff, I mean, the buck stops by me. There's no question. I sign on it. But at the end of the day, if you could come back to me and say, you know what, we've implemented this. I'll give you an example. He came up, actually it wasn't him, but it was somebody in that department came up and says, in every facility, we pay a couple $100s a month for the phone systems. So in the office, we have this Unify system. Many people have it. Maybe I have it over here. The Unify system, where it's about $25 a month. So it's going to be done in a way where porting the phone numbers takes time and you can't leave a facility without a phone number, without a fax. How are they going to get, medicine fax, whatever.
Right.
So basically, we're going to do it in a process way where with the facilities we have today, it's going to save us about $3,500 a month.
Initiative.
Great. Show me what you did.
Right.
It's very, very, very simple. From mid to upper employees, you could do it every single day.
Right.
Especially on companies with sales. I had an employee in John to Go. She's still in John to Go.
Okay.
She started with me I believe in 2006 to 2007 as a part-time employee.
Okay.
I didn't say 2026 this time. And she started 2006, 2007.
20 years.
Huh?
20 years.
20 years. She started part-time, devoted. I mean, you're talking about she really made it her life. At some point when we made that whole deal, how we're going to grow, I said to her, look, I think at the time she was making $35 or $40 an hour. I don't remember. But let's say $35 an hour, which I think makes more sense. It says, I'm never going to raise you on $35 an hour. It's not happening. But every month that we did more than the year before. So January 2026, we did $2 million in sales. January 2025, we did $1.5 million in sales. For that $500,000, you get 1 point. How much is 1 point of 500,000? Should I help you? $5,000.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot of money. And she ended up making $220,000, $240,000, $260,000, $280,000 a year. And it didn't even bother me. Because she became my partner.
Right.
And I didn't have to motivate her. I didn't have to convince her to come in on a day where it was a snow day, or have her phone available on Chalamoid, or take her laptop home anytime. Ever. We never had this conversation. But when I give her that deal and she says, but what if, and what this, and what that, and what but I have a Hanukkah party, and my kids, and my Enikla, and my Schwieger, and my mama, whatever. Become a register in a grocery, you make your $800, and that's that. It's two different employees. What I'm going to say to you is that there is a shred in every human being that is called entrepreneur. In some people, it's all of them. Wherever you touch, it's entrepreneur. And in some people, it's bigger and smaller. The person that has it very, very little. Now, if you are in a company that all you do is you do messaging and you need a guy that comes in and does the messaging for you, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. There's no if, but, schmutz, whatever. You figure out raises with them every single year. Every January 1st, it goes up by $2 an hour. Don't call me, don't ask me, don't bother me. That's that. But the biggest hardship I see with with companies that are trying to grow, the biggest distraction to the owner, and I'm going to explain to you a little bit more because it sounds like I'm saying something stupid, is giving a raise. Why? Because how many days or weeks or how many times have you heard from an employee, I left because I asked him for a raise and he kept on pushing me. How many times did this owner not walk across your desk or wanted to face you because he was worried you're going to hunt him for another raise because you had a baby, which means you interrupted the business. He couldn't communicate to you what he had to communicate to you in terms of the business because he was worried he's going to ask you for a raise. That makes any sense to you?
No.
I walked into my office in John to go. I had zero worry he was going to ask me for a raise. Zero. Never worried.
Why'd you go? Okay. Why'd you go for private equity? Because the business plateaued?
No, business didn't plateau, Baruch Hashem. So why I went to private equity? It's a very, very good question. So I'm going to answer you the question in two ways. The first question is the question like this. Do I have charata that I did it? No.
Okay. Would you have done it differently?
Would I have done it knowing what I know today? Probably not.
Which is,
now I'm going to answer you why I did it, then you know which is.
okay.
Which is you come to a point where the company becomes so big and you're growing so fast that you're simply running out of money. Meaning to say is, I'm going to explain it to you like this.
It's going out.
So let's say my annual profits are $10 million. And let's say I grow by $15 million. I'm negative $5 million. Let's say my profits are $10 million and I grow by $5 million, but I grow every day and I get paid from companies 30, 45, 60, 90, 120. I'm still negative in dollars. When you have 4 employees and you tell them, I can't pay you Friday, but I'm going to pay you Tuesday, it's okay. But if you have multiple locations in multiple states and hundreds of employees, that doesn't fly.
Right.
So it comes to a point that either you bring in...
It's also not okay if you're supposed to pay them Friday, and you're going to pay them Tuesday. Even if it's just for employees.
It's never okay, but what I'm saying to you is...
It's a little easier to deal with.
It's easier to remedy.
Right.
This is something where you can't remedy at all.
Right.
Which means to say is that, and I'm going to tell you something else. And a lot of companies say it. You could see huge, humongous companies, and I see them all the time as if they come to me for consulting, whatever the case is. I don't do consulting for a living, so I don't want people to take that notion. So I see companies that you would think that they are the biggest companies, they're rolling it in and they're living life, and they are living life, and they're giving a lot of tzedakah, and they're living the lifestyle of an entrepreneur needs to live, and they should live like that. We're non-shekadoshim. We are Shem's kids, and we should live in big houses and have humongous hashpahs and everything like that. You would be surprised how much interest and money waste they spend a year to be able to keep the cookie crumbling, to keep it going. And at some point, in bank fees or interest loans or high interest loans or types of things, that it just doesn't make any sense anymore.
Right.
So then you have to bring in other money. So it's either it's Tati's money,
Right.
which Tati didn't have. So either it's a bank. There's a very big caveat in this. So when you have a company that shows huge growth and we have assets in the millions, I mean, you're talking trailers, trucks, and toilets and all these good things and so on. But if you have, let's say, equipment financing loans, which in general, if the equipment could last 10 years, the equipment financing is 36 months only, you're squashing yourself like nuts. The bank looks at you as your cash flow is low. So now you're double sticks. Now they don't want to loan you. So at some point, you got to do one of these big Tata moves. And that was our Tata move. We did it.
And you stepped out, or that happened much later?
No, what happened is that I was CEO of the company up until then.
How many employees?
Today?
No, then. By private equity.
When I left management, it was probably maybe, I don't remember exactly, maybe 150, like that, something like that, yeah. Well, I was 6 employees, that's 156.
Right.
My brother wore 3 hats. So
Fair.
Yeah.
What would you have done differently?
I probably would have invested more time in packaging the financials in a way where I could actually tell my story in a true way that I could retain 100% of the company
And go to the bank.
and bring in bank money, maybe small bank money.
But enough.
But maybe enough bank money for small banks, I meant.
Do you miss the daily
rush?
grind of the challenges?
So I'll tell you. So
Putting out the fires.
So we never put. So one of the things we need
You
to
know
talk
what I'm
about.
referring
I know what
to.
you're saying. Yeah. So no. I mean, I loved every minute of it. The being down on my luck, being negative, and I loved every process of it up until I don't want to go back. to certain things. But okay, but the answer is like this. I loved it. I sometimes miss it, but I have it now because unfortunately I got myself into a new company. So I have it, and I have it in a way where I'm 44 today. I'm not 24 today.
Right.
So it's just, it grinds differently. You understand? But but for a year and a half when I wasn't really doing anything, I was going off my mind.
I've heard this from many successful founders who had successful exits. They had their whole identity wrapped around the business. So when they did their exit and they walked away with a lot of money, millions, they had an identity crisis. Their whole identity was that business.
Yeah.
They took a step back. Oh my gosh, what do I do? Sometimes they go into depression. I don't think that happened with you. You know how to make yourself busy. But their whole image, like everything was wrapped around that company. Now they take a step back. The company's going to continue growing. They have a lot of money in the bank, but how many times already can you go on vacation?
So you need to understand something a little bit. First of all, when I stepped down, I was pretty young, meaning to say...
How long, when did you step down?
So it's 3 years. It's going to be 3 years. So I was 41. So
Right.
It's not like I've been doing this until I'm 55, 60. Now, what do? I'm young. I could do it
Right.
like that. That's number one. Number two...
How long did you wait to get back into getting busy? A month?
And I don't want to... No. I don't want to say it happened by mistake. So initially, I was still running certain aspects of the company.
Okay.
I was chief revenue officer, which basically means just we're paying you not to talk. But I was chief strategy officer, so strategies. But at some point, I realized that they have a different mahalach and strategies. So my strategies are, some they did, some they didn't. And sometimes when you come with the strategy to private equity says, okay, so now go execute. Okay, I know how to execute when I'm the boss, and it stops and starts by me. When you need to execute and you need to have all these different approvals, like it's just not even worth it, like that. So it took me. So this was this. Then also, I'm an avid traveler. So I did a country a month. Every month I was in a different country, not for the whole month.
Yourself, with family?
Sometimes family, sometimes alone, sometimes friends, whatever.
You went to El Salvador,
Sure.
Guatemala?
All of them. Yeah, all of them. So I did that. You have to understand another thing is, people know me as John to Go. I've exited companies before.
Right.
So I had companies that I was, so John to Go was my biggest identity. There's no question about it. And it was my biggest builder, blah, blah, blah. But I've exited stuff. And the second is we have a real estate portfolio that I was involved with. So about a year, I was just, doing this and that. I did a lot of minute talking, learning a lot, which I'm telling you, I should have known this when I started the company. Would have been different. So I did a lot of that. But at some point, I wanted to get into something else for a few reasons. When you sell, even when you sell for a lot of money, you realize a lot of money is not a lot of money.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a lifestyle to,
Maintain.
So, yeah. So I wanted to get into something. I liked real estate and I would like business also. So liking real estate, liking business, the closest thing to it was something related to healthcare, something to that nature. So I went to one course, and which was the small ALF model, like 10 beds, whatever, which wasn't for me. And then I went to an administration course in Florida to become an administrator. I never became an administrator, but I just wanted to learn the laws. And I only started buying in the beginning of 25.
Recently.
25, yeah. But we run a whole bunch
Right.
of communities now. So we did that. It's just, but if you're asking me if I knew what I'm biting myself into, no. It's tough business.
You know what? I think as we get towards the end of this amazing episode, I have a very interesting question for you. If you needed to start again from scratch, what's a business you would want to get into?
So for me, that doesn't mean for everyone. Very good question. And there's two ways how to ask the question. And I think because I want to answer properly. So some people ask this question just exactly the way you asked it. And some people say, what would you recommend me to start? I can't answer that. I could answer what I would do. I would probably do Porter Johns again. And for two reasons.
Can you?
I can't. Now I can't. I have a non-compete. But
Right.
at one point I can't. I can.
When?
3 years, 4 years, whatever. I know. And the next, we have another exit.
Oh,
It's private equity. We have a few
Right,
exits.
right.
So we got to wait. And it depends. Maybe at the second exit, I'll be involved in the third exit. I don't know we're still not there. But at the end of the day, as a matter of fact, I actually pitched my partners that I want to open up a brand new portable toilet company unrelated to anyone
Why would that be different?
in a different area, not competing with ourselves. So let's say you
Regional,
open up in Arizona or in Texas or someplace where we're not, and let's do the hustle again, like that. I didn't end up doing it because for private equity, you have to understand something. somebody once told me, I have a good friend, Yossi Ostreicher, he lives next to me. He's from the food business. He's a tzaddik. Mamish helps people all the time.
Streichel cookies?
His grandfather was Ostreicher's cookies, yeah.
Okay.
So
Who's running it now?
Nah. So Yossi's father has multiple companies. They used to have Mishpacha that they sold. They have David's Cookies. They have.
I was in Israel for a month in the summer. I was working in an office building, and I saw down the hall David's Cookies in one of the offices.
David's Cookies, yeah. So he's that, and they have Norman's the yogurts. Yeah, good people, very good people.
Yeah.
So he told me once that he was involved in a food business that was bought by a big private equity. I think it was one of what's the name of this president? Was going to be president, and he lives in Massachusetts. He's a Republican. Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney?
Mitt Romney owns a private equity company. He was the owner of that company. So he worked for them. And the first time they came in for the meeting after the sale, after the merger, they came in, and one of the big machines, the manufacturing machines, broke down on the floor, and they were flipping out like, what's the private equity going to say? It's not working. It's not production every day. So so basically they came in and they didn't even bother. So he learned private equity doesn't have conversations of now. They have conversations where and how can we be in 24 months from now?
Right.
Like that. So opening up another company together with them, but just having a unidentified other company wouldn't work, because at the end of the day, I still got to bring home Parnassa.
Right.
They don't care about Parnassa today. They care about what we could exit, which is the proper way to do it if you're comfortable enough.
Right.
Like that. It wasn't for me, again, but if I need to start today, and I would probably do portable toilets again, and or a service-based business that's scalable. That's scalable. Meaning to say is, if my service is that I build sikkahs, you can't scale that.
Right. You need people and people
You need-
and people and people.
You need people, and it's also only once a year.
Right.
But if or Asroigim, I'm not saying Asroigim was a bad
Seasonal,
business.
right.
For me, it wouldn't be a good business.
You're like,
Cleaning hoods in the kitchen.
what about fencing? You're on the same site.
So we do fencing. We do fencing. We didn't do it when I was running the company. They added it on because for me, we were growing so fast.
I see that as a
It is.
recruiter offering resume writing services. Very
It is.
connected.
It is. So now we know you do writing services,
We
guys.
do-
If you need to know,
I see it as an easy
Blackbird Recruiting and Writing.
Yeah.
So the answer is, so we do that. Roll-offs, garbage roll-offs. That's us. Like that.
Dumpsters.
Over here, I'm not putting a big doggish on it because I don't like to compete with my Hamish friends.
Right,
Like there's no
right.
point. Again, business is ruthless. We gotta do, but it's not our
Hashem
core
says
business.
Parnosa. You know how many
Hashem
people
says
I've
Parnosa, that's
helped
right.
open other recruiting agencies? People called me. They want to get into recruiting. They maybe want to come work for me. I tell them I'd rather help you open your own business.
Right. No, it's very, very.
It's never affected my bank.
It's very chashiv, and it's right, and it's right, and it's right. But at the end of the day, there's a very fine line. Recruiting is a little bit different. It's more of a gig type of a thing. No, it's a business.
No,
but it's a very fine line between giving it away and helping somebody else.
Good point.
You understand?
Yeah.
There was once a guy here locally. But he does also some service-based business and so on. And somebody else opened up competition, whatever the case is. And then afterwards, somebody opened competition in my arena, which again, you're not competing with me because the Yiddish market is not my market. Yeah. And in Yeshiva and Square, they were saying that I said that this guy does this, I'm going to do that, which never happened. So this guy that was in the other business that he had a competition called me up and he said, my son came back from Yeshiva and he said that you're going to do this. Don't do that. The Irish Tafi development. I said, you're 100% right. And I did not say that. And I couldn't care less about a little cockroach that wants to do his thing means nothing to me like that. But when you're saying to me that you had a competition and it wasn't working and so on, I said, I think you're a little bit stupid because there's a fine line about giving it away and like that and so on. He called me up 3 months later, almost crying and saying, you are so right. You don't have to hand it over.
Right.
There's a fine line of helping and handing it over.
Right.
What's yours is yours. B'shvili nivru olam. It's okay.
Right. Exactly. For me.
Verstehst?
What a great conversation.
Baruch
Thank you.
Hashem.
If you're
Anytime.
watching, I hope you subscribe on YouTube. Till next time, I really enjoyed this episode. I hope so did you. I'll see you next time.
Mirz Hashem. Thank you.